Portugal's golden visa, arguably the most popular golden visa in the world, is now back. Kind of never left, but people thought it left. It's back, and I'm going to tell you what's changed and what you need to know to get one. I'm going to walk you through each of the different investment options you can make to get a golden visa in Portugal. The key takeaway is real estate is now off the table in pretty much every form. But first, I want to talk about what is a golden visa, because there's some confusion and the media does not help with this confusion. I would define a golden visa as a residence permit that you acquire by making an investment. Historically, it has often been in real estate, but it has expanded to cover any number of other investments and even donations that does not require you to live in the issuing country, but that allows you to live there as long as you want, either now or in the future if you decide to go there later. And so what makes a golden visa different from another residence permit is, the other residence permit, you may get a job, or you might get residence permits, through marriage. There's many different ways to get a residence permit. And there are certain countries in Europe, which is really where most of the golden visas historically have been, where they don't really want investors. Like if you go to Norway, they're like, yeah, all right, you want to invest some money? Great, invest it, but we're not giving you a permit to live here. Whereas there were countries that during the global financial crisis, like their real estate was at rock bottom. They needed investors, they needed capital. And they said, hey, listen, come and buy a property for this amount or more, and we will give you the ability to live here. And what's nice about European countries, it would lead to citizenship. That's what was interesting about Portugal's golden visa, is that unlike the golden visas in Spain or Latvia or Ireland, which is now, went away recently, or Greece or any of the others, you didn't really have to live in Portugal. You could live there as little as about 7 days per year. You had to pass a language test to be naturalized, but it was one of the easier language tests, and it still is. It's not a super high standard like what you'd find in Germany, where you really need like C1 or better German. Now, any golden visa is an option. Greece has become the most affordable golden visa in Europe. And so if you have a Greek golden visa, I tend to think that even if you would live there, they're going to be a little squirrely about naturalizing you unless you're ethnically Greek. But you don't have to live there. You don't have to pay taxes unless you do live there, probably the majority of the year in most cases. But you always have that access to Europe. So in some cases, a residence permit can just be access to go and live in the place. You don't pay taxes, generally speaking, if you don't live there. This is obviously not tax advice. But what Portugal did was take it one step further. You don't even have to live there, and generally speaking, we will give you citizenship. And so what happened was so many people bought real estate. What I did was I invested in a fund that then goes out and buys and renovates and rehabs and then sells basically gentrified properties. And people around the world are complaining, hey, property prices are high, the rent is too damn high, and who's the easy, person to point the finger at? The foreigner. Portugal has a lot of opportunities. And I think it offers a lot of benefits to someone. They are going to be getting rid of their favorable tax system for new arrivals pretty soon. So you probably want to hurry on that if that's of interest to you. Portugal passport, one of the best in the world. You can live and work and travel anywhere in the European Union for the rest of your life, and generations to come can do the same. But Portugal still has a portion of the country that is communist. Wages in Portugal are really not that high. I mean, there's people making like under 1,000 euros per month. And so when those people feel the pinch, they're going to say, why are we allowing people who don't even live here to buy property and get citizenship? We understand that countries need investment, but politicians have to cater to the masses. So exactly why I say you want to be diversified. So some of these golden visas are going away. Some of them use the Ukrainian war as the pretense, but you've seen a couple of these programs go away. The Netherlands most recently just said, hey, their program is really expensive. They got 10 people in 10 years. We're done with this. Goodbye. Other countries like Spain, Greece, and others are, building up their program, offering more options. But Portugal said about a year ago at this point, like, hey, you know what? We're getting rid of the thing. And there was so much waffling back and forth. It was really dramatic. But the final version is, we want investment, but we have to be able to say we're not letting people come in and buy real estate. So here's what you can do. Option number one, This is straight from the Nomad Capitalist research team, working with our extensive network of lawyers and experts around the world. You get access to that, by the way, when you work with us. Really, I think some top-tier people around the world so that you don't have to. And they all work together to build your plan. Option number 1, job creation. This was an option before. We've talked about how for certain people it could be an interesting option. If you need people, Portugal does have a lot of employee-favorable rules. Inexpensive place to hire. Best time zone in Europe if you're in North America, for example, and you want someone to be not that far away from you. Create 10 jobs. It's if you create and maintain those 10 jobs, you get a golden visa. Obviously, there's going to be salary taxes. If you're coming from the U.S., at 8, 9, or 10%. It is European. It's higher. There are more strict labor rules, but you're going to pay less. You can find people who speak English. There's a creative culture there. You've got cities like Braga in the north that kind of has some little tech stuff going on. I mean, you've got stuff going on. If you want to hire 10 people, you're probably going to need some kind of transfer pricing plan. I mean, there's any number of things you could do. Maybe you could use it to save some tax in the future. Number 2. This is one of the more esoteric ones. Scientific research. Capital investment of 500,000 euros allocated to research activities conducted by public or private scientific research institutions integrated into the national scientific system. Probably not something most people are going to do. Cultural heritage support. You're basically going to say goodbye to your money. 250,000 euros in capital being transferred, designated for investment or support of artistic production, preservation, maintenance of national cultural heritage through various public and private entities. The fourth option, fund investment. Now, I always tell you, prices in this industry basically always go up, with the exception of a Caribbean citizenship price war that may now be reversed in the near future. Prices for residence and citizenship by investment, which again is optional. It's benefits, but optionality, generally only go up. For example, in Hong Kong, they're bringing back their program. Price is probably going to be triple what it was a number of years ago. So the fund investment used to be 350,000 euros, and that was a discount versus the real estate option, which is now gone. They raised the fund investment a while back, 500,000 euros. So you're paying 150,000 euros more because you waited. Now, theoretically, that money comes back, and maybe it comes back even bigger. If there's a return, obviously 500 grand grows faster than 350. But 500,000 euro fund investment, basically in a fund that has a maturity of at least 5 years. My initial thought, which I'm still thinking is the longer maturity, the better, because of the processing times on these golden visas. But basically, it's 60% of the investments are within Portugal and no real estate. So you might have a fund that invests in startups. And obviously, Portugal has the Madeira Islands, which have some favorability there. You can invest in, there was one that was biotech. Now, the fix and flip real estate fund really isn't going to be an option anymore. Real estate in Portugal has grown dramatically since the golden visa started. Not so much in Spain and Greece. So if you got into the golden visa years ago in the real estate option, you did very, very well. Even a couple years ago, you did well if you got it in on the real estate funds and someone else did the work. Those kind of lower hanging fruit funds are going to be gone. 500,000 euro investment, but there's a number of different funds, and maybe we'll see more that invest largely in Portugal. Here's the option 5, commercial ventures, transfer of capital amounting to 500,000 euros or more for establishing a commercial company with a registered office in Portugal, combined with the creation of 5 permanent jobs. So you're not just hiring the people, but you're creating a whole venture and putting 500,000 euros in there. Theoretically, this could be part of a global structure. People think, well, I guess I have to move my whole company to Portugal then. I don't think necessarily. Theoretically, you could have the European wing of your company, and you could use that as an expansion into Europe. One of the things that we're talking about in Nomad Capitalist is we want to make sure that we're working equally with people from all around the world. And we have clients from all around the world, but there's still a plurality of people, I don't think a majority, but a plurality that is North American. And so I believe that there's opportunity all over the world. And I think to be resistant to shocks, who knows what could happen in any one country, in the economy, what have you, you want to be diversified. And so perhaps opening up something in Portugal that either caters to Northern Africa's not so far away, or Western Europe, or Europe in general, that could be part of your commercial venture. That could be part of the org chart. 500,000 euros or more, create 5 jobs. Alternatively, reinforcing the share capital of an existing company is a qualifying option, provided it leads to the creation or maintenance of at least 10 jobs with a minimum of at least 5 permanent positions over a minimum period of 3 years. So theoretically, someone else has a company, you're going to get in with them, but you still have job maintenance requirements, and they still need to be permanent, and that needs to last 4 years. So what are we taking from this? The things that stand out most to me are you're creating jobs, you're starting a company, you're funding someone else's company. The only option that doesn't require kind of a mid-6-figure investment is the simple job creation. Or you can look at one of these fund investments, but the options are going to be a bit more limited because the politicians don't want the real estate prices to be held against them. There are still going to be incentives for low density territories. So obviously when the Golden Visa first started, people just went and bought an apartment in Lisbon, right? So we've talked about a number of residence and citizenship programs. If you're getting Turkey citizenship by investment, unless you have a lifestyle reason to live in, Bodrum or something, or Antalya, or I don't know, wherever else, buy in Istanbul, buy in the best neighborhood you can, either a big neighborhood or a luxurious neighborhood, and buy correctly. I mean, one of the things you'll see with a lot of these golden visas, the commissions on these golden visas and citizenship programs are often through the roof. When Nomad Capitalist works with people, we don't funnel people into things that pay us 10 and 20% commission. We're not in the commission game. We're in the unbiased advice, which you pay us a fee for game. For some people, the Portugal Golden Visa isn't the best option. I'll come back to that in a minute. But most people when the Golden Visa started just bought that property in Lisbon under kind of the same logic of what I'm talking about, getting the citizenship in Turkey. Hey, property in a capital city, in a good neighborhood, it's probably going to do all right. And it did do very well over the years. And so I'll just buy that and I'll have the optionality. I'll have the Golden Visa. No muss, no fuss. What the government wants, though, and what a lot of these governments want, is they want people to invest into places that aren't as successful as Lisbon. They want to bring in investment into lower density areas. So if you get in from the coast, out of Lisbon, out of Porto, out of most parts of the Algarve in the south, you can reduce the amounts that you're investing for those first several options by 20% in those low density areas that have less going for them economically. So there's a lot of options here, but here's the thing. Is Portugal the best one for you? If you want to actually move to Portugal, this doesn't really affect you. If you want your children to have access to live in the European Union in the future or go to school, you may not need a golden visa. If you're looking for a tax-friendly country, Portugal just said, unless you are really on the stick, you're not going to have the option to live in Portugal as a tax-friendly country anymore. They're getting rid of that option. So there's a lot of noise out there. We have an entire team here who tracks what's changing in the industry. We hear stuff from our network of lawyers and experts around the world, and we go around the world and we knock on doors. We subscribe to all the tax newsletters. Some of them cost thousands. We keep our ear to the ground. And what's important about that is you can go to someone in Portugal and they'll just sell you an off-the-shelf solution, whether it serves you or not. But for some people, the Portugal Golden Visa is not the best option. What Nomad Capitalist helps you figure out is all the different options available to you and synthesizing which one's best for your particular situation. You don't want to collect shiny objects in this industry. Getting a Golden Visa may or may not solve your problems. I'm in favor of solving problems, not collecting stuff. And so if you work with us, we will help you figure out all the things that maybe you weren't aware of, look at all the different options, understand the pros and cons of each, and cut past the sales chatter about, you got to get a golden visa, look at this. And again, if you want to live in a European country, you just get a self-sufficient visa. You don't need to invest money to get a golden visa. So there's just so many different options and permutations. If you go to nomadcapitalist.com, we'll help you figure it out. And if you're American or you have tax affairs globally, that's an extra layer of complication. How do you report this new investment fund if you're an American? You think the guys in Portugal know how to do that? No. Your domestic tax preparer in the U.S. probably doesn't know either. That's what we help you figure out. So there's other golden visas throughout Europe. Portugal is now back. And so those are the options that are available to you. Again, the message is very simple. Political winds are going to blow. In this case, real estate was the casualty. By the way, I personally didn't, if you're going to a country for 7 days a year, do you want a property there? If it's your one and only backup plan, maybe you do. Maybe that's your, where do you go in 3 days when the fur starts flying? But if you're just adding that as kind of an extra option, maybe you never want to own real estate. Maybe this doesn't matter to you. Maybe this is like, who cares? So there's lots of different ways to parse this. We'd be happy to help you with it personally at nomadcapitalist.com. But most important, understand your options, and those are the new options in Portugal.